Curious. But we don't, you know, that's the state of my research, and I don't think anybody else is even worrying about this. Okay, third social context, the religious association. Here is the case where a whole of a tribe, for example, the ayahuasca and other using tribes in Brazil and so forth, where the whole tribe does it together, the whole religion is tailored to the drug experience as that drug experience is done in that tribe, right? So here you have a possibility of a transgenerational transmission, like a longevity to the tradition. And unlike a secret tradition within a larger religion, the religion is restructured to suit. It's a different format. The peyote religions, North America, are another example. Hard to know what to think of the ancient Soma rite of the Rig Veda. How much of the population was doing that? Was it just the priests, or was it the whole ruling class, for example? We don't know about the Homa rite before Zoroaster. Fourth use is the initiatory one, which is the ibogaine given in boys' puberty rites in West Africa. I don't know, I'm prepared always to be enlightened about facts that haven't come my way, whether ibogaine is used after you're initiated on other occasions. All I know about is that it's part of the puberty ritual. The Bektashi order of Muslim Sufis in Turkey have been documented using a psychoactive drink. It's very little talked about, but it appears to be based on Syrian rue and presumably other stuff, which gives you an ayahuasca effect. There is literary evidence suggesting this practice goes back to, let me think, maybe the 9th century. It's clear that Rumi was doing this, but how much of you ever read about Rumi doing this? So that's the state of scholarship. Wasson, Hoffman, and Ruck, of course, argued for the Eleusinian mystery, having administered ergot as an initiation rite. I picked up their idea and ran with it with the biblical text in my book, Mystery of Manna, where I argue that it looks like, if we believe the text, at Sinai, we had a mass religious renewal. People said, no, that's too much for us, you go do it. So Moses and a handful did it afterwards. And that became the prophetic tradition, because the public didn't want to get involved with bad trips, essentially. So that kind of thing involves a de facto adjunct to a community religion and does not serve as its central element. It's like a spiritual awakening, but then you awaken to the larger religion. You worship Zeus and Apollo and the rest of the gods, and once in your life you went to Eleusis. You participate in a tribal religion, but at your adolescent puberty rite, you use the drug once. That kind of pattern means you don't get personality change. You get awakening to the possibility of a supernatural world, but you don't get transformed in another way, except by fluke. You know, there's one rare person needs one hit and they're changed personality. Mostly one hit means, oh my God, there is a God, and that's it. There's a fifth sociological model, and that's the one that was invented in the West almost by accident, which is the therapy model, where you have a trained professional who works with a layperson, an untrained person, and tries to take that person through personality change. There were two basic models, as I'm sure most of you know, in the 50s and 60s. One using low doses and talk therapy, and the other high doses and no talk. Essentially, the blindfolds and headphones, and that's the only stuff the DEA has allowed to be tested since about 65. Talk therapy was not going to let you talk to a person who's high. No. So these are both working with medical models. I would like to emphasize that I'm fully in favor of the medical model, and I have myself trained as a psychoanalyst. By the way, I have a small piece on my website about Freud's mushroom hunting, which is a well-documented but little spoken of fact. We have him going for mushrooms every August, September from 1874 into the end of the 1920s, maybe the 30s. It was a family tradition. He took his kids and his grandkids, and they kept it quiet because people would disapprove. Which mushrooms? Well, his son said he used to spot amanita, but he liked the small brown one that was found next door to it. Freud. Anyhow, I drift. I always drift. So the whole notion of a therapeutic model I'm in favor of, but it's not what I'm really about. What I'm really about is the idea that we need to invent a new profession, which is going to do spiritual direction. I mean, psychedelics is the one spiritual path in all of known human history that proceeds without spiritual directors. I mean, do it yourself. My God, what lack of any kind of history produces that? Why do we not have an accumulated body of lore that is transmitted? Why is it reinvented every day? And how do you get respectable if you do maintain it at that level of naive amateurism all the time? Yeah? But then my own path is so Bible-oriented anyway. What do you expect from me? So I mean, you can disqualify me from that standpoint, and that's fine. But if you're into this other point of view, let me give you some ideas about what I'm thinking of. To begin with, I'm only going to talk about LSD-type drugs, which I define as drugs capable of what are called pseudo-hallucinations, a hallucination that you know is a hallucination while you're having it, as distinct from a true hallucination where you really think what you're seeing is real. So if you know it's in here rather than out there, it's a pseudo-hallucinogen. And I'm told that all pseudo-hallucinogens, if you boost the dose, become truly hallucinogenic. The thing about hallucinogens versus pseudo-hallucinogens is the window when you have that threshold state. That some have such a small window that the moment you're high, you're already hallucinating. Others, you get high, and for a range of doses that can be predictably accessed, reliably accessed, you can hit the pseudo-hallucinatory dosage level. Now, for me, that's a remarkable state. That's really what my book, The Ecstatic Imagination, is about, because I believe it's a non-specific enhancer of imagination, of which an important part is reflective awareness, the ability to know that you are watching your mind while you watch your mind. Reflective awareness is what Buddhist mindfulness is about, but rather than mindfulness and detaching from your contents, it's mindfulness and work with selected contents. It's an awful lot of Christian and Jewish meditation that is mindful to specific contents, as distinct from empty mind, or detached mindful. They're not part of the mystical tradition in Christianity. They're called meditative and devotional, and you won't find that literature on shelves about mysticism. You have to look at devotional literature to find that stuff, so that they're separate people who even study these things. But at any rate, reflective awareness is a kind of psychological mindedness. And one of the things that arises or gets you to is the notion that mental images are mental images. Now, there's two directions you can go. The traditional way in, say, Jewish and Christian thinking is that once you know that the mental image is a mental image, you avoid idolatry because you recognize it as only an image. And you aspire to the concept of a more spiritual God who can't be imaged.